To participate in revelation, you're going to need your vertical code. What it is, it gives you your vibrational signature, which helps you to understand why you're passionate about certain things. No two people on the planet have an identical vibrational signature. And while identical twins have identical DNA, the timing of our first breath infuses this body with a 5 elemental quality. The elements are related to the pneumoplasm, which is the space between us. It's rich with energy and information. And to be able to decode it, to feel it, you simply have to be aware that becoming conscious means that we have to come into the sensory state. Coming to our senses means actually beginning to speak a sensory language. And so right now, part of the golden age is the shift. And if you look at the polarized pattern that is viral right now, very few people can feel the fractal world, which has to do with this spinning, this double helix that's also connected to the cosmos. And we are actually ascending every day. And so to ascend requires standing in the light cycle. So you have to attune your lymphatic system, which is the neuroendocrine system and the digestive system and the filtration system, liver, kidneys. And so to open the flow, the fastest way to open the flow is to make sure that there are healthy bowel movements. And along with that, having your code can be very, very helpful. My older sister, Michelle, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter all have vertical code that starts with 2O. And so it's the adrenals. Every time you hear number 2, think adrenals. So this is the 10, and everything on the planet is created through a scepter. This is the spine, and this is the intention. Okay? So intention drives matter. And when we understand that we can access maps to decode the pressure so that we're not dissipating it, being able to hold steady through the pressure means awareness that the space between us connects us. And now that we've had additional near-death experiences, which we didn't realize we were having near-death experiences until we stumbled upon PMH Atwater's book, Forever Young. And so I've been in the middle of a vertical integration after doing a grandmother ceremony on sacred land, the western slope of Colorado. Most people don't know that there's an Escalante area in Colorado, but there is. And so I built a campfire and went to my knees and commanded that I take in the entire pattern so that I could send it back out as gold. Thus, allowing my granddaughter to live in a world where the children are actually held through the vertical integration cycle, their first 12 years, the second womb. And that the parents are aware that their spines are making up the edges, the two sides of the double helix. And that if you divide in the invisible, it actually fragments the child. And so these are genetic mutations, these habits to divide on one another, the old system of divorce that was put in place by the Templars. Okay? And I had to go in and study the Templars because I started receiving information about the Templars during lucid dreaming. And the way the information has always come through me is it comes through me. And I'm the dumbest person on the planet, so when I get a word or something like that, I go in and do the research. And I know how to tell if there's an agenda behind research to try to get you to buy something. And if someone's actually just giving you the information, then they're not going to be able to provide space for you to apply the principles. And this is why we've always done weekly case collaboration. And we went from doing one-on-ones in my practitioner support department to, they could do both, the case collaborations, and we could certainly start that up again. But what ended up happening after this near-death experience in Escalante, the very next day, well, some of the other words I said was, make it crystal clear. All right, and the very next day, I was actually headed to California to drive Highway 1 before becoming a grandma. My granddaughter was going to be born in a few short weeks. Her due date was around the 20th of July, and this was May 4th. And I remember the date because it was also the due date for my oldest son, Scotty, who is Ella Rose's daddy. What I didn't realize at the time was that the unfolding of that command, because this was 2017, May 4th, 2017, the very next day, I chose to head south into Montrose, which is one of my favorite towns in all of Colorado, and filled up my gas tanks, stocked the RV with all this yummy food, and then I decided I was going to head down to go to Black Canyon. It was a park I had never visited. And as I'm descending down into the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, I went through this rock formation. And the moment I hit the rock formation, the engine shut down. And then I didn't have brakes. And I couldn't get it started. It was an automatic. And so I'm looking ahead, and I know that I'm either going to smash into the cliff or I'm going to try to make the hairpin turn. And I decided, I just completely surrendered. And, the first assumption I had was, well, I guess I'm going to be better off on the other side helping her. And so I decided to point into the cliff. And this state of peace, utter peace, came over me. And I had a mystical experience where I actually met the ancestors and Ella Rose, who hadn't been born. And this all happened in this time warp. As I'm descending to crash, 16% grade is quite steep. And so it was picking up, momentum. And somehow I caught air. I went up, and then a 1.5 flip in the RV, and it landed on the side of the RV where the gas tanks weren't, thankfully. But there was a hissing sound, and I knew I needed 3 things. And I said it out loud, and I looked down on the floor, and there they were. Previously, they were in the back. And so my entire life has been mystical. Ever since that happened, I've been living in a paranormal world. What we didn't realize initially was that I was no longer able to absorb people's shadow and lift it and convert it for them. That I now had this matching spine quality that when I show up somewhere, I'm not able to set the context for what's going to happen. I just come in and match spine with them, and it's been very uncomfortable. And I've been very clear with people about what has happened, but they don't remember. The moment I match spine and they get triggered, they take offense to me, instead of realizing that we've got the shadow in between us, and that since I went behind the veil, since I commanded to take this in and send it back out as gold, we have to have very clear communication, because there are veils on everybody's glandular system, and it's in the human gene pool. All of us have it. Every single person has the shame miasm, which has to do with fear. And the moment you go into fear, you go into duality. And so what do? Well, we start to participate in revelation. And this is why you need your code, because everybody's glandular system works differently. And mine, if you look at the vibration of my name that was written out right after I was born, it's 55. And so if you understand the vibrational signature of 55, it's thyroid, it's fifth dimension, but it also has to do with holding the bridge, because it's a 10. 5 plus 5 is 10, and 10 is the intentional field. It's got 10 in it. And so you got to be focusing here, or else you're going to be in duality. And so the moment you get triggered, people are used to thinking that a trigger comes from the outside in, and it doesn't. It doesn't. The field is actually reflecting you. And so every one of these veils has a microbiome component, parasite. These miasms actually pleomorph. And so they're behind Lyme disease. And when someone gets into a state of shock, they will express Lyme. And if you don't know what Lyme is, it's all the autoimmune conditions, the things that people say are incurable, like MS and Parkinson's and, fibromyalgia, anything that's not cancer, all right? That phase, so we've got excretion, reaction, deposition, impregnation, degeneration, and neoplasm, which is cancer, right? And it's the 6 phases of homotoxicology. And everyone can watch their reactions. These are going to be blind spots that happen that usually people don't even know they're doing it because it's so ingrained. But as we begin to come out of shock, we're actually going to use our crystalline code and understand how our spine works. So my twin sister, she's a 58. And this has to do with the name on her birth certificate. Is it numerology? Nothing is numerology. We're talking about vibrational medicine, vibrational signature. And your water body is pulsing and emitting a frequency 24/7. This is your 12 cranial nerves that are actually responding to whatever you're focused in. So if it's in duality, if you're in position to where you give ultimatums to people who are in an NDE and they're not able to meet you there, then what? You've got to have the codex, because the people that are on the streets are in shock. And sometimes they go homeless so fast, you can't even believe how fast it happens. And so are they in a state of shock? They are. And they go immediately into shame. They go into blaming themselves. They feel guilty. But now they're in survival mode. And so the world manipulates. That's how things work on this planet. And we're not really designed for that. It's upside down. And so if we begin to understand that, the things, all the judicial system, it's put in place because humans fell from grace. And so we had to put a system in place during this 26,000 year light cycle. It happens like clockwork. And so the Templars will show up and they put a system in place, a temporary system, for us to be fair and to have laws and to govern from the outside in. Because the moment the shift took place, the fall from consciousness, this is the first miasm. And it's shame, it's called Sora, and it caused us to develop skin. And so the development of skin is also the development of the material world. But we're outside in right now, and we're ready to shift to the inside out model, which actually means the golden age. And so to do this, you need your code. And we charge for the codex because you're paying for our time and us investing our grounded light in your family. And so you're basically going to learn how to write code on your own. And once you learn how to write code, you're going to be able to see your family's miasmic shadow. And the way to bring your family all the way through burning the miasm, which is base metals that block the 5 elements, causing a buildup of microbes that will break the body down. If we don't have enough air, if we don't have enough movement, if we don't have the 5 elements coming from the plant minerals, we've got to have the right water, and it needs to be spinning to the right. And so if you've been with us for any length of time, we go in and do biobiology on homes, and we set them up to be healthy environments. And that's what we're doing now. We've actually, our prerequisite now for giving the bioenergetic clinic information to people is, first you've got to understand your bioenergetic body. And we used to have you write the Benjamin Franklin to figure out what your why is, but now we do the code, and there's 3 numbers. We're going to look at your day of birth. We're going to look at your life purpose number, which is the sum total of your birthday. We're also going to look at the year, because anyone born during the same year, you have the same purpose. And when you start to look at each other as a co-creative family, it becomes very, very fun. In 1962, which is when my sister and I were born, that's also the year that Nissim Haramein was born. And he's a thought leader in unified physics, which unifies Newtonian and quantum physics. And so we found his work back in 2016, I think, before he got popular. And that's when we shifted the name of Bioenergetic Resources to Unified Medicine Institute. We were waiting for his information to come through because it backs up what it's like to be an identical twin, 100%. So to do your code, and part of the other stuff that we are going to want you to learn to operate is the rod. All right? You can Google, and people will tell you how to do dowsing, but if you haven't grounded the intentional field from the inside out first, you also need to know that you have to have permission to tap into someone. And so I had a group of as we started to go into the miasm integration in 2016, my group of instructors actually went behind my back after we did a miasm workshop in Golden, Colorado, but we were actually supposed to be showing people how to use the Insight device instead of the Insight device owners teaching the class. Once they did that, everything polarized, because we're not supposed to silence the miasm through some kind of tapping or technique like that. We actually have to integrate it. It's the only way to bring sovereignty, is by actually being willing to talk about things and to have the tools to be able to do that. So the way that my sons were raised, and they are sovereign, and they are holding the miasm right now. Many of my family members are mad that I went and made that vow. But I wouldn't have it any other way. We're here to leave things better than we found it. And every time we go through the procession of the equinoxes in Merlin's family, so there's 3 sisters and a brother, and we're all born in the water cycle, which is between winter solstice and spring equinox. Our dad is Taurus, our mom is Sagittarius, and these have to do with elements. I'm not talking about astrology. It has to do with health constitution and who and what we are. And so we've got the codex on the website, unifiedmedicineinstitute.com. And for a short period of time, downloading your codex tools will also include us recording a reading so that you have a case study of your own code, so you can see the shadow element in your own family. And then from there, as you start to do your case studies, which means doing your spouse's code, your partner's code, your siblings' codes, as you start to do this, your mind is going to be blown. I guarantee it. So our older sister is Michelle, and she was born on March 20th, 1961. So her code is 20, and we always code that out so we know it's a 2. So 20.02. And so that's adrenals, grounded, and then grounded adrenals. And so she's here for fertility, just like my granddaughter, just like my daughter-in-law. And Michelle's code, her purpose is a 22. So again, she's got the mastery of 22 in her code. Mine is 55. Hers is 22, which has to do with fertility. And it's why I'm having to teach people about chemistry from the inside out, because she died of iatrogenic disease. She was on 11 different meds. And as the doctors follow the algorithms, they're not actually looking at side effects. They're actually supposed to be getting her off of this, but they didn't. And so all of these neuroscience panels that we ran around the world, where we were doing daily case collaboration, so people would do urine and saliva, because we would do the hormone creams and put people on an individualized program for rebuilding serotonin, rebuilding dopamine. And so anyone who's got anxiety, you're going to be focused on getting a dopamine rush when we really need to rebuild serotonin. And this is using the mushrooms. And it's opening up the mucosal lining inside your spine. And so part of the games that we have with the Crystalline Codex are, it's a private page on the website. It's a inner circle where you get updated information about the unfolding daily cycle, because after you do the vertical code, we're going to show you how to use the first breath in your birth chart through medical astrology, which, interestingly enough, I have found collaborates with all of the work that we did back in the 90s on metabolism type. Do you guys remember that? So I was working with Dodie Edwards out in California, And there's 28 different metabolism types, and we can tell them by looking at the body. But what I was learning there was it was building upon the child development degree, and everything that I learned through the years of working as a child development associate with, 18-month to 4.5-year-old children, and helping to vertically integrate them and through the parents. So now here we are, fast forward, I'm in the center of medicine because I figured out what the problem was the parents weren't prepared to be parents. They didn't feel their spine. And so I could immediately tell when there was something going on between parents. And I would get on the phone and call them and call it out based on the radiation that was coming from their child was indicating 1 of 10 patterns. 1 of 10 patterns was at play. And so what's happening is every day we're ascending. And what that means is every day when we wake up, we want to harvest our sleep. We want to surf the daily cycle. You want to be eating something every 3 hours. And I know that many of you are fans of intermittent fasting, but that will actually throw the hormones out of balance. And so many people who do intermittent fasting also do coffee. And then they do wine, or, and then you've got these people that are just using marijuana, and they're using the sativa in the morning and the indica at night, but they're not actually coming all the way through a process. And so we need to start offering our patients, our communities, the opportunity to have sacred plant ceremonies led by our healthcare practitioners who have been studying the autonomic nervous system since the 90s with us. Now we are integrating the shadow. And if you're born in the 1960s, then you actually grew up in households where it was free love and everybody's, doing their chemistry, and there's uppers and downers, and you could, the doctors were prescribing speed, amphetamines for weight loss. And so we watched our parents do this with their chemistry. And now as we begin to shift to the crystalline codex, everybody will begin to understand why they want what they want, but to be able to bring it into balance so that there's all things in moderation. And this, dear ones, is what we promised our sons before they were born. My former husband and I did a ceremony, and we promised to bring the High on Life system. Little did we know that marijuana was going to be the elephant in the room, that we didn't have a way to talk about it when it was being used, and the secret was more painful than anything. And so hindsight is 20/20, because we ended up getting divorced because of the 911 system and going through that whole process. And we're actually just wrapping that one up as of last month, July 5th, as of last month. And coming all the way through that 911 system, it's connected to 9/11, it's connected to COVID-19, it's connected to the 1999 Columbine massacre. We have to start looking at the 1s and the 9s to wrap up the previous century, which is gonads and the spine. That's number 9. Okay, and those together make a 10. And so I'm talking about that because my granddaughter, Ella Rose, has 19 life purpose. And so she actually came in with her life purpose being an alchemist. And she uses her gonads and her mind in a very creative way. She's magical. She's been able to manifest pink Jeeps with her mom. And it's because she's actually a 10. All right? And so my legacy is 10. Her life purpose is 10. And here's another interesting thing. My life purpose and my legacy is exactly the same as the mayor of Buena Vista, of BV. And that's where we were living when we started wrapping up the 9/11 system. And I actually went into it and got to sit in it after having the charges dropped against my former husband back in 2005. We were able to get them dropped, provided that one of us moved out and we got a divorce. And so our sons were 16 and a half and 18. And so we knew that I needed to move out. And so that was 2005. I went international and started teaching what we had been offering in our clinic here as apprenticeship. And so put the whole curriculum together. And in the interim, former husband ends up getting one of the first 8 medical marijuana licenses. And we laughed at him. We didn't think it was medicine. And, you know, look at me. I mean, I've been practicing herbology. I'm a master herbalist. I've been teaching it. It's part of my naturopathic degree is 5 elements. And so we realized that before people get into bioenergetic assessment, bioenergetic testing, that first we want to teach them how to use a rod, how to pick up on the intentional field. And you've got to know which hand is positive and which one's negative, because this one receives. So if I hold the rod here, I'm going to get very different information than in this one. All right? And so head over, get the crystalline codex. When you purchase it, we get an email, and then I'll go in and do your code, and you'll be able to watch me do the code. You'll walk through it with me, and then we'll talk about the gifts, okay? And the gifts are also, like because my legacy is 55, this is the miasm of leprosy, which is outcasting. The 4, which is what my sister has, so she's got 58, so she's got, the 5 is leprosy, and then she's got the 8, this is the pericardium, the heart sac. And so it's duality. The infinite bond isn't known. And so 8 is very, very karmic. And only someone who is a master would take on 8 vibes, but it's going to take them a bit to be shocked open. And so if you add the 5 and the 8 together, it makes a 14. And so 1 and 4 is what we've seen everywhere. But the, sorry, not 14, it's 13, which actually becomes a 4. And so she's got the 1, 3, 4. And our older sister has the 22, which is really awesome because she's sitting on the bridge right now holding it for us. So I can't wait for you to do your code. That's the first step. Then nature play therapy certification is the next step, because we walk you through how to set up your home, how to do a virtual job that's based in who and what you are, to lead the shift in consciousness, to leave things better than we found it. So I want to wrap up just by reminding my family that many of my family members are saying, I didn't sign up to take in these patterns. I didn't sign up for this. Yes, you did. You most certainly did. It's right in your code, and that's why we're reading it. So my daughter-in-law, Ella Rose's mommy, has a 30 life purpose number, which is also the same as my dad's true love, Barbie. And so 30 code is not easy. Anyone that's got 3 in their code, that's not easy. It isn't. And both of my sons have 34 code, and so does the oldest cousin, Michelle. Michelle's daughter has this code too. So she's got 34/7 life purpose. And I've got to bring her back around because she also has 10 legacy code. It's 6410. So as you start looking at these patterns, it has to do with the flow of the electromagnetic pulse through the person's body. It gives their gift code and all of it. It's super fun, you guys. So family members, if you're still in denial about matching spine and you want it to shift, then our starting point is for you to have the shadow diagram. Okay, this is shock, shame, blame, guilt, manipulation, outcasting, cancer, and you're dead to me. All right, once we get into the 8, that's the fall. I mean, it's the split duality. And so 8 is the crossover, and 9 is the head and the spine. And so 4, 8, and 9 are what vertically integrate through ascension, and that allows the threefold flame to develop. All right? But to be able to do that, we have to use the circadian clock. And once you get your vertical code, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, between 9 and 14 numbers. And basically it gives us a sine wave, because the first number tells us how you connect on it during a creative day. And the second number shows us more about what happens through the weeks. And then the last number is what we use to build your legacy backward, because we have helped so many people transition. And as you know, if you watched the video from the other day, I've been attracting lost children. Anyone I talk to has someone who's recently died. And then I'm connecting them, but I don't want to be a psychic medium. I want to show you how to connect with them yourself. That's been the whole point all along. It's why we started bringing people into the retreats, having them do silent retreats, having them slush hike, having them learn to use dowsing rods. All right, having them learn to use their 5 senses in the kitchen with their hands, and how to set up a kitchen to where it's just totally blissful eating and so easy, and done in a way that everybody can create their own meals, because you keep the fridge stocked as if it's a great big salad bar. And does it just have salad in it? No, it's got whatever proteins you want, whatever grains you want. We always keep legumes and rice or some kind of grain, so that you can do quick combos. And anyway, you can follow us on different social media sites, but we can't start doing the codex with you until you start decoding. And that's when you're going to be able to bring your family to the table, to the round table, and you'll be able to see that you and your siblings fit together. So this guy I was trying to work with last week, he didn't get it. He didn't understand that his nephew had a short period of time for the family to come together and do the codex, and he didn't get it. He didn't see the value. And so we missed the whole cycle again. And that's what keeps happening with family members, is they don't know that we are ascending every day. And right now we're in the worry cycle, which is the spleen, pancreas, and stomach cycle. And so the imbalance is worry. And so if you ever find yourself worrying, that's going to be connected to blame. Okay? Because here we have fear, worry, anger. This is grief. This is an imbalance in joy. And this is cancer. And this is death. Okay? And so to shift to the inside out, we have to start feeling our own triggers from the inside out. And the way that you'll feel your triggers is if you actually trust your code. My daughter-in-law has the same legacy as my grandmother, my dad's mother. Louise Myrtle Mortensen. Has the same vibrational signature as my daughter-in-law. It's a 99, which is an 18. And remember, the 1962 vibe is 18. And it has to do with gonads and the pericardium crack open the mind. So it's the symbol of sexual maturity. And so we will bring it through our family. And yes, you did sign up for this, guys. It's not the first time that we have jump-started the collective by polarizing and taking in all the shadow elements, and then remember how to come to the table to remember that we're waycasters. As 5 elements, we're going to speak the unspeakable. And Diane and I never thought that we would have words like our grandmother Myrtle and her daughter did, and like our aunts did. We never thought that there would be that kind of hatred, which really what hatred is, it's the absence of light. It's a polarized situation. And so there really is no hatred. There's fear and there's love. And fear blocks love, and it creates miasm. It causes a buildup of heavy metals, and from there we attract certain viruses that give us a certain mindset. But we're supposed to be integrating them now, and we've got the keys. So if you just want to start right out with Nature Play Therapy certification, it includes the Codex. And if you're wanting to join the franchise, then you would go for the Bioenergetic Clinic. And it includes Nature Play Therapy and the Codex. It also includes all of the product training and all of that, but we have you graduate through the courses now so that you won't polarize and go in and try to fix people. You won't go back to using an algorithm. You won't ever try to silence pain. You'll get to the root cause in a matter of weeks, not years. All right? We've gone through the needle's eye. Diane and I have been holding the miasmic shadow. I'm in the middle of 2 sisters, my sister on the bridge, Michelle, who transitioned in 2007, along with Slim Sperling, Spencer Woolley. I've got a bunch of them right here. Yeah, and so it feels like this young man left, that he's actually got someone helping him now. So I will check in again later. Post your comments, like and share this. And if you don't want to do the Codex, you could donate. It helps us to create these videos, and we'll create whatever it is that you want. Bye for now.